And we'll give folks a couple more seconds to get in here before we get started, because I ain't gonna keep you all on here late tonight, because I know it's Thursday. Most of us got at least one more day of the week. Some of us got maybe two, you know. I don't know where that is. I really wish I had that. Let me see here. Let's try this here. Nope, that ain't gonna work. Okay. What's up, Ree? In the city, Chi-Town. We know that you will be visiting there frequently here coming up, but it ain't our business to tell. It is not our business to tell. I wonder if I can do it on this joint. Nah. I don't think so. But anyway, yo, what's to y'all, man? It's 7, what time we got? 7:05. We're gonna give them about 2 minutes more. Nah, I'm gonna give them another minute. I appreciate y'all tuning in to the Graybeards Matter podcast, where we are the mature authority, and we are definitely in here tonight. And it's not say the irony, I don't even want to say that, right? We are talking about why men struggle, right? That's the title of the caption. I hope that you got an opportunity to check that out. So you can do what we on tonight. If you didn't, it's real simple. But I'm gonna get to it. They got about another 7:07. We getting cranking. We getting cracking in here. I'm gonna everything out the way. For sure, we gonna get it in. We are gonna get it in. Whoa. So I cannot do that. All right. We still hot, right? We still cranking? All right. Whew. Bet. I wonder if I can do this then. You still cranking live, right? What's good, Ree? You straight? I hope you good. Pray you good. For sure. It's been one of them unsuspecting type weeks for your man, Mr. Clip Eastwood, AKA, man. I hope that y'all hydrating, man. We got the good H2O. It's getting warm outside, good people. If I've never emphasized taking care of yourself before, I really pray that you are doing that now. But man, look here, it is 7:07. We're gonna get to it. Man, it's your man Big Clip Eastwood, AKA Mr. Graybeards Matter, and this is the Graybeards Matter podcast, where we are the mature authority. And this is episode 23, part 2. Survivor Series part 2, right? So let me break that down for you real quick so we can go ahead and get cranking. So we started Survivor Series several weeks back, right? And Survivor Series is acknowledging those people who have some stories to tell, real lives, real stories, real experiences, right? And this is a safe space, and I appreciate those who are taking the time to want to be interviewed. And I take great appreciation for those who are dialoguing in the comments, right? So the first episode, we interviewed my man Bumpy, and then we went straight to the men's component of it, and that's where we are now, right? So the first 2 weeks ago, we did episode 23, part 1, and we had such a good dialogue, and it was such a good exchange going back and forth that we only got through 2 segments, 2 out of 4. And we had already been on an hour plus. And we tabled that to come back and revisit the next 2. And here we are tonight, and we're gonna do just that, right? So, like Tree Thomas, always in here, always commenting, always has good feedback in the conversation and post conversations. Michelle Draper, my man Bumpy, all great assets, man. Sean Traylor. I would be disrespectful for trying to go down the list of everyone. But overdid, right? Sometimes you don't really realize the impact that you're having until somebody surprises you with the "yo, I was checking you out" type comments, right? And I'm like, damn, you know. Even though we don't do it for the attaboys or the "yo, look at me's" and the comments and the likes and, you know, the algorithm checks and all that there, it feels good to know that somebody can give you a quote, on something that you said. Pardon me, going to turn this down. This is not what we're going to do tonight. And that's a great thing, man. And I accept that and I appreciate that. Right, but Dad, we're gonna get to it, man. Graybeards Matter Podcast, episode 23. We are the mature authority. Men's health, right? Mental health. Why we struggle. Why we struggle with communication. And yo, Overdig, man. Shout out to May Green. Yo, what's good, bro? Green is Mental Health Awareness Month color. This is the last Thursday we're gonna get a chance to rock it, but you know what it is, man. I salute everyone who goes through, knows someone, or knows of someone who is dealing with mental health, right? Mental health is really on a scale. It's on a scale because even though everyone doesn't want to admit it, everybody goes through it, right? It doesn't mean you have issues. It doesn't mean that you got a little twitch with you. It doesn't mean that you can't function. Mental health is anything that goes along in your life that affects your capacity to deal with certain things. It can be emotional, it can be mental, it can be social, right? That incapacitates you from functioning like you normally would in any situation, right? So, not disrespecting anybody that has been truly diagnosed. I want everybody to understand that, yo, don't walk through this world thinking that you're exempt from the possibilities of whatever you're going through being magnified to the point to where you can't control it, and then the scrutiny comes on you. So that alone is part of the reason why communication is an issue, scrutiny. But we're gonna get into that. Hey, yo. We're gonna talk about a bunch of things tonight, man. We're gonna have a little dialogue. I'm not gonna testify because it's not about clip. We're gonna talk about, hopefully we get some, you know what though, let me slow down. Green Tea for Mental Health Awareness. I got more dialogue or more feedback from the first episode, the first part of episode 23 from the women, right? And I think part of that is because women, I gotta watch my words here. Women desire to know men, right? Men, we aren't always the easiest to, I don't want to say deal with, right? I would coexist with, function with, understand, whatever adjective you want to put in there. It's sometimes it can be a challenge for whatever reasons, right? And if you want to know the first part of it, please feel free to go back or go on the YouTube channel. Shameless plug, Gray Bears Matter podcast, YouTube. Go subscribe, like, and share. I think we're at 79 now. We're creeping up to 100. Where every 50 we're gonna give out some merch, but over there, right? And then in the comments, we're gonna talk a little bit. We're gonna speak a little bit. I got some questions within the segments where I hope that we get a chance to talk about. And then we're gonna come in and see what's going on. So out the gates, Reed Thomas, you know what it is. 402, tried and true, was cracking. Omaha. Bro, Bruce Wayne, Kim Butterfly, Jersey up is in this joint, man. We are straight to it. If you have any questions on what we're talking about, man, feel free to go check out the title and the description of the podcast, right? So we are, let me see here. What we doing? All right, cool. So a little run back, a little feedback on how we got to this point. Section 1 of episode 23, which was why men hide their struggles, right? And the first one was, when did men learn silence? The second segment was, the pressure men carry quietly. The pressure men carry quietly. And now sections 3 and 4 are, 1, how trauma affects communication, and then what healing looks like for men. And again, over there, I'm not certified in anybody's brick and mortar. I don't have the certificates to go along with it. I'm just a man who has conversations with men. It is not my way, it's just my opinion. I have my own life experiences that I'm transparent enough to speak on some of them. And I hope that whomever I interview in the future or whoever's viewing feels safe enough to know that, hey, if I could talk about me, what I've gone through, I can talk with you about whatever you want, right? Because this Great Bears Matter podcast is mine. It's my space. And if I welcome you here, or I invite you here, you are safe. We don't do no bullying, we don't do no judging, we don't do anything that's gonna make you feel uncomfortable in mind, right? If you know me, you know how serious I am about that. But you know, we're not even on that. So anyway, yo, MD, what's good with it? Yo, Godfather, let's talk about it, man. Hey, yo, Godfather, you know what it is. You know what I'm saying, B. So, man, let's talk about it. The pressure men carry quietly. First bullet point. What does it do for us? It provides. It's the provider pressure, right? No, I'm sorry. Whoa. Let me slow down because I was going back. That was 2. We are number 3. How trauma affects communication. I can even speak for myself on something recently, right? Going through a little something that you close a gap after numerous years, right? And you identify parts of your life that you didn't know that was tumultuous at best, right? Not because you had resolution and it wasn't what you wanted, but it's usually because you don't have resolution and you don't know how to have that final closure to it. And when that happens, depending on how the situation came up with, if it's negative, obviously, then a lot of people say they don't give a, but when you do give a, it can trouble you, right? And a lot of times people that say that they don't, it's usually a cover up to give them the perceived strength that they feel that somebody else is gonna need, right? And we can walk around here and do all this. I ain't tripping on what nobody else says, but that's cool. You know, a lie don't care who tell it. But when you telling yourself that, and you live with that for years and years and years, and you get the facade that you just that strong, tougher than woodpecker lips individual, that's not true, right? And then you carry that on, and then let's say that you have some type of reconciliation on what it was that you were going through or trouble with, and then all of a sudden turmoil comes in that has nothing to do with the first part of why you went through it. You reconciled that, right? But then all of a sudden a bone comes in, and it messes up the progress of what you are going through. And then you feel like, damn, I went through all these years of self-sabotage, possibly by not talking about it. And then the self-sabotage comes into the mental compression, the emotional compression, then then the closet compression. What I mean by closet compression, I don't give a damn if you man or woman, right? We all have baggage. We all have luggage. Not everyone's closet is the same size. So when we try to put that baggage and that luggage inside the closet, it's not as easy for some as it is for others, right? But see, where the misconception comes in, if you think that you can just, your closet is large, right? And you can stick your baggage or luggage in there real easy. When your closet bursts, that just means you got more stuff to deal with, right? So unresolved trauma doesn't allow men to want to speak on certain things, right? We will exasperate the small, or what can be seen as small into something large, right? And it's not that it's large in reality, but it's large in the space that is filling within us, right? And then when we feel the pressure of not wanting to address what's within us, the shutdown is real, right? It's like, yo, you can go head on with whatever else you're talking about. I'm not trying to hear any of that, right? So then we say, hey, it is what it is. And not really tripping in the moment on the damage that creates with the person that you're supposed to be communicating with. It could be your homeboy, it could be your homegirl, it could be your sibling, it could be your parent, it could be your mate, it could be your partner, it could be your life choice. Whatever it is, if they cannot, we cannot, I cannot, you cannot know what's going on without you talking. Unfortunately, sometimes people want to assume, try to write their own narratives, come up with their own conclusions, and that pisses men off even more, right? And then we feel offended that you would be even bold enough to try to tell me what's wrong with me, and you don't have any idea. And that affects relationships. And then it's not a matter of communication because we really don't have nothing to say, right? And we're good with that. But that comes with the sacrifice. And the sacrifice is the relationship that you have for self-preservation. But you know, hey, let's see what's cracking here. What's good, bro? MD, talk to me. MD says, some women do legit want to understand y'all. Hey, and MD, let's get on that. It's not that men don't believe that you don't want to understand us, right? Men, it's easier for us to protect ourselves in that capacity than to accept the knowledge of being vulnerable, right? because a lot of men, self included, walk with the posture and the understanding and the belief that depending on who it is, that vulnerability can be risky, right? And sometimes, and usually from some other trauma that we've gone through or seen or experienced or seen other people experience, creates a void that we don't want. It's easier for us to put up a shield than it is to let down to be vulnerable, right? Because that shield that we put up, that's a component of war, right? Be very clear. A shield is to protect, but along with that shield comes spears, whatever you want to talk about, right? It's to protect us. It's to protect those around us. And it's easier for me to be strong and protect that than to be strong and be vulnerable. It's tough, man. It's tough out here for that. So let's talk about the next one. Emotionally unavailable fathers. Woo-wee. So if I had to expand on emotionally unavailable fathers, right? So a lot of fathers get charged for being emotionally unavailable, but what does society expect from a man what does the society expect from a man who wasn't allowed to be emotional? Right? And then they say they're not emotionally available. So what is emotionally available? Like what is the scale or the diagram on where someone can say what another man isn't in that regard, right? And I'm just playing devil's advocate because I understand the context of the question, but emotionally unavailable could be misperceived as not giving a damn, right? Or his way or no way, or that it is what it is, or suck it up, buttercup type mindset. And it goes back to whatever trauma that man has gone through, right? And a lot of times it's to not go through the trauma. My bad, man. A lot of times emotions can be deemed as a weakness, right? Or showing emotions can be deemed as a weakness. We feel that to toughen you up or to toughen ourselves up, then the exterior doesn't allow access, right? Because if I allow access, and this can go for women as well, the more accessible I become, the more opportunities at times someone can have to violate that, right? And then that brings out a different component of a person. So the older or more vintage I become, I'm always going to advocate to limit your access to yourself, right? And that could be just from the masses, man. The masses don't have your best interest at heart. The social media shit, excuse my language, mama, isn't for everyone, right? In our space right now, we are talking, we are dialoguing, we are exchanging, and it's safe, right? We can play the number game all we want, but in here, going back to the previous, I'm gonna protect myself and anybody that's rocking with me, and in those moments, when that protection comes in, The emotions are unavailable. What's going on, MD? We talking about? She says, if you know how an emotionally or physically unavailable father affected you, why repeat the cycle with your own children? What else do they know? Right? What else? What else is that man? What's the source for that man to go learn something different? Right? So I don't wish that on anybody, right? If I had to do it all over again with my own two sons, young man, 2021 with two boys, I would have done things differently. Admittedly so, right? I wouldn't have been that father, right? I loved on them. I loved on them hard, but I was hard on them too, right? And see, a lot of times where men get it twisted is that we feel that the harder we are on our youngins, that's gonna make them tough, right? And it's gonna make them, and when we're making them tough, then they're gonna be tough for society. But what we're doing, unfortunately, is, or sometimes, is you are making them, you are traumatizing them and cheating them from an emotion or experience of love or nurturing that they shouldn't just seek from their mama, right? And then when you get some men that see a man up under their mother or love on their mom so hard, right? And then have a judgment with it. And this is where things get funky, right? See, a mama, don't get me wrong, mamas can be tough too. But when that nurturing comes in, that man, he can appreciate that, right? He can accept that. He yearns for that. And sometimes us fathers, you know, is tough love, and we ain't trying to hear all that, or the child isn't. And we tend to lean towards the mother for that, right? And the father, yo, man, don't be doing or treat my son that way, or, you know, take the titty out of his mouth, making him soft. And we are wrong for that, right? Now, we don't want to say, or we're not gonna say that if a mama raised a boy, he gonna be a sissy. Nah, not true. My mama raised me, and ain't nothing sissy about me, and we gonna leave it at that. So that's not true. Even in a two-parent household, sometimes the fathers are absent in that aspect. They want to raise a tough kid, raise a tough boy, and then 9 times out of 10, that's how they were raised. And then this is where it's messed up at, right? Is they don't want to be accountable to what they're missing to their own offspring. And then we go back to what MD was saying, is how can you do that? Well, what source did we have that we felt that it was wrong, or we could be so traumatized that we can't articulate the difference, and that's all we know how to do is repeat that blank cycle. And that's not cool. That is not cool, MD. All right, we got some dialogue. We got the women in here. Okay, ladies. All right. Reese says, providing what he needed to his children as he would have liked to. Huh? What you mean by that, Ree? Break that, Ree, expand on that, or I'm not quite clear on what you mean, providing what he needed to his children as he would have liked to. You talking about the father? But so let me ask you this though, Ree. You don't know what you're missing if you never experienced it, right? Like, Anybody, any male, boy, girl, if you're devoid of love, what does love look like? Love looks like this, what you're getting. Now, you know, it might not be something that's right, but what is your comparison? All right, and then when you find that love, right, or you feel the difference in somebody treating you differently, or giving you something, boom, like what is it, welcoming, or are you cautious because this is different, right? And then you get this boy that was raised that way to now he's a man and he's had 30 years of being in a certain mindset to want to change because somebody told him that he was wrong. And then you have to rationalize that with him. And then he has to go back and be honest about what he's going through. Like, damn, when did it start? Like, what's the chronological calendar of what this person is telling me that I'm presenting, right? How do I know that what this person is counseling me on this life component, that if I change that up, that somebody's gonna receive it better? Right, or the mystique of this man who's this alpha dude is going to keep that, right? And a lot of times, the trauma comes in, and then you get the egos, right? Because you want to maintain that certain posture. But this is I got a crazy joint for you, Reed. Sometimes a man will be too scared to be real with himself and present to his children, partner, and society what he thinks he wants them to see, and then be dead ass wrong. 5517 is in this joint. Naki! Sissy is in here. Yes, we are having dialogue. Welcome to the Graybeards Matter podcast, everyone. Happy to see y'all. Okay, cool. So MD, Bree, Sissy. The next part, the next bullet point is of why how trauma affects communication is anger versus sadness, right? I don't think that it's anything gender specific, that if we are in one of those spaces, whether we're angry and or sad, that is any time that we are highly communicative to anyone, right? It's the I want to talk later, or when we're sad, or let me get myself together. And then if you want the angry people that don't know how to function within that space, then it can come off aggressive, it can come off despondent, it can come off like what's really good, right? And a lot of times the anger is just a cover up for not acknowledging what got them angry to begin with, right? And then so let me riddle me this. If a person can't identify their trauma, how can they identify their emotions? Right? And when I say identify, you know when somebody's sad and you know when they're angry, you know the difference. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about how can somebody who is emotionally deficient or immature know exactly how to deal with that emotion, right? In a proper, functional way where they can come to some type of conclusion to get them out of that. Men, since that's the topic we're talking about, and I ain't talking for all of us, it's not my way, just my opinion, I ain't talking about myself, but men, those are two emotions that we absolutely, vehemently, uncategorically try to avoid, right? We don't like being sad. Sad, why? Because it goes back to what we said earlier. Sadness can be misconstrued or misperceived as vulnerable, weak, soft, all that crap, right? And then when we're angry, if we aren't mature enough to control ourselves, then it's going to come out verbally attacking, disregarding others' emotions. It's going to come out where we have the inability to be empathetic, right? And a lot of times, unfortunately, the people that are closest to us who didn't make us angry receive the most damage, right? So here this man is traumatized by whatever in the world that he's gone through, right? And then you find himself in that situation, and then he's traumatizing somebody else based off his inability to identify what's wrong with him to begin with. Come on, man. We just rapping. We just rapping for sure. Ah, snap. Farmer French is in the building. My good hermano. Terrence Goff is in the building. Absolutely, bro. The why behind the emotion. And so that's it in almost in a nutshell, right? But the why is probably the biggest reason that things go left, right? Because it's never addressed, right? And then the why has sub layers to it as to how, when, where, right? And then why is that person sad or why is that person angry? I would take love. I would take neutrality. I would take, give me another, happiness over angry or sad any day. Any day. Because those are two emotions I, Clip Eastwood, AKA Mr. Graybeard's Matter, don't trust. I don't trust how I got there. I don't trust why I have to function in that space, right? I don't know why I have to function in that space, nor do I trust myself in that space, right? Because in my past, and I think I'm better now, in my past, the sadness or angry would create a different emotion, right? Angry never made me sad, but sadness can make me angry because I didn't want to deal with that, right? And I could cover anger up with aggression or just take it, or being or being difficult, right? And not in removing myself from people or removing myself from help or removing myself from an opportunity to find out, like Torrance Goff said, why. Because addressing why would create a whole nother emotion, right? And it's not about being accountable there, it's about being truthful as to why. But what if you don't have the reasoning to understand where it's stemmed from to have a real why in the end, right? So then you've gone through the ebb and flow of emotion, you having these flashbacks or these of trauma. You're trying to come up with a scenario that can make sense to you logically or why you're in that space, right? And then when you find yourself in that space, unfortunately, it can make you angry, right? And now you're looking at the person that's trying to help you, right? Or you're trying to really figure out where it came from if you're being honest with yourself. And then you go back to that trauma that you're enduring or having endured can come out of you and traumatize somebody else who doesn't deserve it, right? And it's not that person has any ulterior motive other than the one to understand why. Then we go back to what Indy was saying earlier, that some people genuinely, authentically want to understand how we as men function, do what we do or do what we don't, right? And it's easier for us to not, because then you can't hold us to anything and I ain't got to tell you nothing because I didn't do anything, Let me deal with it. That's trauma, cuz. All right, well, Sharice say, oh, so you have trust issues. I suggest working through that. What? I don't think anybody who's gone through anything in life doesn't. DT says, I told my kids all growing up, you gotta feel it before you fix it. And most of the time we don't want to feel it, but the healing demands it. That's a mouthful. It's a mouthful, Torres, for sure. So how did you, being the good father that you are with your children, communicate to them that in order to feel it, they had to fix it, and then identify what it is they felt, right? And because they're children, how did you as a present father afford them the opportunity to know that they can come talk to you about what they were feeling, not quite sure what it was, and fix it? I don't know. I wasn't always in I was not always that father. It took me to understanding that, damn, I didn't want a little Craig or two little Craigs all the time, because two little Craigs, I had to deal with them, right? And I had to deal with me. My boys, they are alike and different. My youngest son will say some slick, what's good with you kind of comment, and my oldest, that I would say, and my oldest boy would be like, well, what's up? Like I would want to be, right? You talking about, no, that's trauma, for sure. Next bullet point, learn emotional shutdown. We kind of spoke on this already. Learned emotional shutdown, in my opinion, is something that we create as a buffer, right? And we internalize the emotional trauma that goes along with the incident or incidents that create us, right? It's easier for us to shut that down and not address it than to allow somebody in that space where we can become vulnerable. We're cool on that part, right? And a lot of times it's because, like we just stated, we don't have the capacity to understand what emotion it is that we're really trying to feel, right? Yeah, are we angry because we don't want to be sad? Or are we sad because we're not tough enough to be angry? I don't know. Everybody's going to be different in why they are who they are. Yo, Fresh Kabar's in the building. Y'all know what it is, dog. Foxhole, you know what's up, bro. I hope you healing up well, man. I'm praying for you daily, dog. You know what's cracking with us, man. DT says, bro, there's layers to it. Let's rap sometime, but in a very tiny view. Vulnerable conversations, allowing them to be kids and make mistakes in so much investment. Ain't no doubt, DT. I think I'm a premier advocate of letting the kid earn his bumps on the head, right? For sure. I earned all mine, still do. But at the same time, right, what I know now, right, is that unfortunately absence didn't allow the opportunity to learn from those bumps all the time, right? And ice wasn't always available, because a lot of times those bumps and those scars, they'll go down, they'll heal up, but they'll still be sensitive to the touch. So now we go back to that vulnerability thing of why we want to shut down, right? We know what that hot stove would do. We know where that bump on the head came from. We know where these scars came from, so we try to avoid it. And or if we find ourselves in those situations, we know what kind of consequence comes from that. So we want to be the person that doesn't receive but dishes it out. We want to be the issuer of what we felt because we know what it felt like, and we don't know why we felt that way to begin with. But since you want to cause me pain, and I don't want to be vulnerable, and I don't want to be weak, and I don't want to be sad, I'm gonna disguise with some anger and some passive aggressive and or aggressive, and I'm gonna let you take what I've been feeling. So now we the same. Come on, Eastwood, let's talk to him. Yo, DT, we here every Thursday, man. Gray Beards Matter Talk, good brother. I appreciate you tuning in, man. You know what it is, dog. Love me, you, cuz. Wow. Next bullet point. Survival becoming personality. Now, this one here hits home for me, right? Because a lot of times, and we talked about it before, is we don't realize that the Survivor, well, not, let me slow down. The Survivor series started out with me being under the impression that I want to talk to people who have survived things that we can identify. Cancer, stroke, mental health, diabetes, domestic abuse, all things that are identifiable, right? But what do you do when you don't realize that you are in survival mode every day, right? Every day that ends on Y is an opportunity for you to try to get through it, right? So you wake up, you say your prayers, you thank you, Lord, and then you go right into the fire. And then when that fire doesn't have a direction, right? And I say it doesn't have a direction because you don't know where it's gonna come from. You just know that you gotta get out there, get into it, and figure that out, right? And then when you go out there trying to get into it and figure it out, and then you evolve into something or someone that may not be relatable to, right? And unfortunately, when you become that person, anyone that you speak to, homie, homegirl, spouse, girlfriend, partner, boss, they can become indirect victims of what it is that you've gone through, right? And a lot of times what you've gone through puts you in a space of preconceived notions of what somebody does want from you or they don't want from you, right? And then you find yourself looking at them like, well, let me set the pace on how this is gonna go, right? And then when you try to walk them down and put them in that little safe space where you can check the temperature on what's going on, a lot of times, unfortunately, you've already come across as though, yo, I don't wanna rock with this dude, or I don't wanna rock with this woman because of the energy that you've given off. It wasn't intentional, but that's just what you have become based off of what you've gone through, right? And what you've gone through, now we go back to what MD says, why? And then we go back to what DT says, if you don't feel it in the proper way and let it get fixed, it keloids, right? And then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. All right, what are we talking about here, man? Let's say here, Fresh says mitigation becomes a norm. Oh, for sure, Fresh. That's survival mode, always mitigating the trauma. Hey, Fresh, hey, you know, survival mode, man, is unfortunately for some people, like you and I have, we have some of the things, right? But that's not today. But trauma, let me tell you this for everyone. Trauma does not have a work day, right? You don't wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, go to bed at 8 o'clock at night, and that's your window for trauma. I'm here to tell you that trauma has no time. It is not chronological. What you go through in your daytime and what you go to bed with can traumatize you in your sleep, right? And when it traumatizes you in your sleep, it is compounding all the fire and messery that you've gone throughout the day, right? And then when you go through it throughout the day and you don't go home and you don't relax, you don't decompress, you don't get it out your system, and you take it to bed with you, where's the release at? So when you wake up from a bad dream, when you wake up from the thoughts of going that you went through, right? And then sometimes, unfortunately, when you have these dreams that be so vivid and you can't articulate them, or they'll be so vivid in the moment, and you wake up and you're like, damn, where'd that come from? What was I dreaming about? Right? Then you try to piecemeal together what it is that you went through. You try to figure out why, right? The why part again. But then, unfortunately, because you don't have a why, now you become guarded. You become emotionally inaccessible. Your communication is non-existent because we don't have the capacity to articulate what it is we're going through, whether it be traumatic, whether it be anger, sad, hurt, pain, none of that. None of that. That was section 3, man. I got 3 questions for everybody. Tie them in. MD, I hope you're still there. Rhea and Torinskoff, I hope you're there. This question is for everybody here, but can unhealed trauma affect parenting? First question. And in your opinion, second question is, do men sometimes struggle to express love emotionally? Third question, how many men were taught responsibility but not emotional tools? That last one, that kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier, right? We weren't given those tools, not emotional tools. Nah, because being tough is not an emotion. Sucking it up is not an emotion. Tighten up is not an emotion. Those are directives, right? And they are void of emotion. Just the opposite. I made a comment in the previous post, like Bree has children, MD has children, Torres has children that have gone through stages of life where they had to learn how to drive, right? And some of them are older now, they drive all around, they got their own vehicles, cool, great. But at no point when they was 10 years old, I'm assuming, did you give them the keys of your car and say, yo, run to the grocery store for me? Now if you're in the country maybe, but I'm talking real life. I'm talking 10 years old, no experience. You need something, you get them the keys to your car, and you expect them to get in the car, start the car, secure themselves, put it in drive, get to that destination, purchase whatever you got, and get back home safely. You did not give them the tools to be safe if you did that. A lot of men weren't given the tools to be safe because of that. But hey, you rapping though. Oh, for sure. For sure. Godfather, hey, hey, yo, so, hey, people, fam. I'm gonna highlight my man Eric Mosley's comment here. He says, yes, we do go through isolation. And we expanded on that a little earlier, but I'm gonna touch on that real briefly before we get on to segment 4. Then I'm gonna let y'all rock because it's 8 o'clock and damn, let me just be talking about this. We go through isolation for sure. A lot of times we go through isolation because that's safe for us, right? Not my way, just my opinion. That's where when we are isolated, it's safe, right? Because who's in our isolated space other than us? Nobody. Who we rock with in the isolated space? Us. Who we trust in the isolated space? Us. Who we got to worry about in the isolated space? Not us. Not us. This is where we good at. So when the outsiders, and that can be anybody, outsiders try to come in that isolated space, then that's different, right? The communication is different. The aggression is different. The perceived anger is different. And a lot of times it's only because we cannot articulate why we're there, right? Or we don't want to be the vulnerable. We don't want to be accessible. We don't want to be healed. Because we can't tell you what it's going to take, right? None of us like going to the doctor, but when we go to the doctor, we can at least say my ribs hurt, right, doc, or I ain't been feeling well, I got a migraine. But trauma, what's it feel like? What does trauma feel like? You know, we just rapping though. You know what I'm saying? We just out here rapping, man. Y'all want to know why we here? So segment 4, it's really gonna be, we kind of talked about it a lot already, but we're gonna get to it. What healing looks like for men. We're gonna talk about, we talked about communication. We talked about accountability. And this is something that a bullet point is called brotherhood, right? And it could be sisterhood as well. And you can have the crossness of the two. What that means is that you have taken the opportunity to put down your shield and trust somebody, which is very hard to do when somebody has been traumatized, right? So let's just say that I'm the traumatized person and me and Naki or my sissy are having a conversation. Whatever I'm going through, I lash out at her with it like it's her fault. What opportunity do you think that she's gonna allow me to come back to and address it with her if I messed it up the first time, right? A lot of times people don't realize that, again, like we've already stated, your trauma can cause trauma. And a lot of times, unfortunately, people who have been traumatized are only able to function in a traumatized state. And that means those around you have collateral damage from you, or you can see that they've gone through some stuff, and now y'all can function because what's good? You ain't no better than me. I understand it. And then you go out and you be on your best BS because that's what trauma is, right? Trauma, it incapacitates anybody from functioning at a level where they can receive positivity, right? Or they can receive opportunity to get out of that space. Sometimes trauma doesn't even allow you to have the capacity to know what that looks like. So before we judge somebody who's been traumatized, ask yourself, do you have the capacity to really figure out what it is they're going through before you judge them, right? Because a lot of times, man or woman, one of their heightened senses is being sensitive to judgment, right? Or being sensitive to being looked at differently because they don't want to go through what they're going through, right? They don't want to be looked at differently. And when that happens, trust is gone. Communication is void. Anger is present. Sometimes aggression is present, all because of trauma. So yeah, it can be very incapacitating, right? So if I had to suggest something to you, if you know somebody, or you not because I don't know anybody in here who's a doctor, but what I can tell you is this: your first step of dealing with someone who's been traumatized, in your opinion, is that just observe, right? Make sure that you see what you think you're seeing. Don't judge. Listen. Make sure that what you believe you're seeing is actually what you are seeing. If you have the notion to approach that person that lets you come to your conclusion, offer a remedy. A lot of times, people who have gone through or are going through don't know how to take suggestions to get them out of that space. So just know that you may not be the answer. You can want to be the answer. You can have all good intentions to be that person, the reason why you got them out of their situation, but it might not be you. You might not be the person that helps them out. In that instance, suggest, you might want to go talk to somebody. And if that person is blessed enough to be honest with themselves, they may agree with you. And then we go right back to faith, therapy without stigma. We just said that, right? And then, like Godfather was saying, what allows us to heal is, and when we get into these isolated spaces or isolation for ourselves, those trusted spaces aren't violated, right? Violation of somebody who's in that space, you're not given the opportunity to come out of that space at their pace, right? If they're not doing any harm to them, what is your rush, right? Are you so impatient that you just want to hurry and get them out of that for whose benefit? For yours or for theirs? Because if it's for yours, then you shouldn't be there no way. Because the ultimate goal is to try to help that person get out of their trauma or get out of an isolated space where your relationship is devoid, right? So, hey, you can't rush something that you're not going through. You can't force your opinions, assumptions, or what you want and try to control the outcome or be the punctuation to their situation. It ain't your sentence. Allow them an opportunity to become unisolated. And you only gain that through trust. And sometimes that trust has to be within, right? And within, check this out, right? The trust within may be trusting somebody else. Because sometimes we realize that we don't have the answer. We just rapping. So 3 questions on that, man, because I could wrap y'all up on there. I had one more, but we kind of already talked about it. So fam, what helps men feel emotionally safe? What does healthy masculinity look like today? I'm really curious about that one. And can man heal while still remaining masculine? Those questions are for you, but I'm gonna chime in on the last 2. And this is just on my Clip Eastwood, right? What does healthy masculinity look like today? Healthy masculinity looks like trial, right? We know how to have posture. We know how to come into a space where we're not tripping on anybody else in there. We know how to come into a space where we know that we haven't cause anybody to feel any kind of way towards us. And that's cool, right? Stand up tall, chest up, shoulders back. Look somebody in the eye when they're talking to you. But do that from a space where you know that you don't have to worry about being exposed, right? Where you don't have to worry about, being looked at in any kind of way. Because a lot of times people who have been traumatized over dead, they don't know if they're hiding it well, right? And that can be a whole different animal that a lot of people don't know what to deal with, because they'll be like, what you looking at, right? Can you see through me? Because I'm really trying to cover it up. I don't want to be exposed. I don't want to be vulnerable. And then we get back to the things we talked about earlier, right? So then we worry about exposure being a sign of weakness or feeling like prey. And then some men get aggressive with that. And it's really misperceived because we don't understand why we're even in that space. Lastly, can men still heal while being can men heal while still remaining masculine? Absolutely. Absolutely they can. I encourage all men to understand that it is very masculine. It's very mature. It's very mannish for you to understand that you are not perfect, right? And it's very masculine of you to not worry about what somebody else feels about you while you go through. But while you're going through, look for an outlet. Find you an outlet. Find you somebody that can help you in your isolated space where you can vent to, where you can get your words off, right? And even if you don't feel you have the means or the communication or the word articulation to let somebody know what it is you're feeling, I come from a space that I can tell you that somebody can understand you, right? And it might not be your peer, your person, or your homeboy, but there are resources out there that have doctors, they have psychiatrists, they have social workers, they have priests, pastors, mentors that don't have any ulterior motives or agenda by to take advantage of you, has an open ear. They have a listening ear, right? And they are there for you. So, absolutely, Naki, for sure. First and foremost, right? But even how do Naki, people have to realize that they have an issue in order to go find a solution, and then we can just pray that they understand that that solution is the Lord, right? So, but at the same time, Naki, let me put this on that, right? If your faith is founded, you know God got you. God's gonna put that person or those resources in front of you to get you through. Overdig that, for sure. But hey, man, look here, it is 8:15 and we've been rocking for a little over an hour. I appreciate everybody chiming in. Thursday nights is where we are, 7:00 p.m. Gray Beards Matter podcast. This is the conclusion of Why Men Struggle, the conclusion of episode 23, the conclusion of Survivor Series Part 2. And man, the dialogue, the women came out, the men came out. What's going on, Lynn? My sissy pulled up on me, you know. I'm with it for sure. I needed this as much as somebody else did tonight, right? And that's all I'm gonna speak on that. So y'all know what it is, man. The link will be up. I'm gonna go ahead on, conclude this episode with the Gray Beards Matter podcast, where we are the Maturity Authority. We ain't worried about nothing. It'll be up on YouTube. Go to the Gray Beards Matter podcast YouTube page. We are at 79, man. Share the Jones, like the Jones, subscribe to the Jones. And y'all know what it is, man. We here. I appreciate you more than you understand. Overdig that. We ain't worried about nothing. It's your man, Big Clip Eastwood, a.k.a. Mr. Gray Beards Matter. You know the Greens for Mental Health Awareness Month. And we out.